Usually when we talk about miracles, there is this really ingrained expectation of a sudden blinding flash of light.
Oh, absolutely. We crave that lightning bolt.
Right. We picture this cinematic event where the sky parts, the insurmountable problem just vanishes into thin air, and everyone just stands around in absolute awe.
Because human nature deeply desires that instant, undeniable proof.
Yeah.
You want the universe to just bend its fundamental rules specifically for our benefit.
Yep. Yeah, and completely bypass any need for our own effort.
Exactly. We want the grand spectacle. But then you step out of that idealized expectation and, well, you step into the reality of everyday faith on a random Tuesday.
And suddenly that thunderbolt is nowhere to be found.
Nowhere. You're just looking at a daily landscape that is, honestly, a lot of grinding.
It really is. It's washing the dishes, navigating a really frustrating commute to work, and actively biting your tongue when you really just want to snap at someone who insulted you.
That is the reality, and it's exactly what we're getting into today.
Welcome to Zion Recap. In this deep dive, we are unpacking the sermon delivered at Zion CC on March 15th, 2026 by Pastor Roy.
And the sermon title is Ordinary Miracles and the Call to Suit Up.
Yes, and our mission today for you, the listener, is to unpack this fascinating tension that Pastor Roy highlighted. It's this very human obsession with experiencing those massive, extraordinary miracles,
while entirely neglecting the ordinary daily obedience that God is actually asking us to step into.
I was just so struck by how Pastor Roy really pushes us out of our comfort zones with this message.
He does not hold back. Because before we can even begin to talk about miracles, he insists that we have to accurately assess the environment we are currently living in.
Right, like we treat our daily lives like we were just wandering through a casual playground.
But the biblical reality is that we are navigating an active war zone.
A literal war zone. And he anchors this entire concept in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12.
Right, the passage detailing how we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil.
And that comes with the direct command to put on the armor of God.
Which is not a suggestion.
No, it's not. And, as I was reviewing our notes on that specific command, I kept thinking about the practical absurdity of ignoring it.
Oh, for sure.
Trying to navigate life's daily challenges without the armor of God is literally like an NFL quarterback walking onto the field during the Super Bowl wearing just like a t-shirt and a pair of jeans.
That is such a good analogy. He would be destroyed.
You wouldn't last a single second in a physical sport without the proper gear. You would be absolutely crushed on the first play. So why do we do it with our souls?
We wake up, scroll through our phones, and walk out the door completely exposed.
Completely. We step into incredibly hostile spiritual territory, expecting to just, wing it based on our own willpower.
And we really need to unpack what suiting up actually means mechanically, because Pastor Roy isn't talking about imaginary cosplay here.
Right, it's not pretend play.
No. The armor of God represents taking abstract spiritual concepts like truth, righteousness, and peace, and utilizing them as practical psychological defenses against daily anxieties and temptations.
Give me an example of that.
Well, when you put on the belt of truth, for example, you are actively choosing to anchor your cognition in what God says about your identity rather than the lies your insecurity is screaming at you.
Wow.
Without that active framing, Pastor Roy provides a very sobering warning. He points out that when we casually introduce or tolerate sin in our homes, we aren't just making a slight moral error.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It is essentially like walking down to the front gate of your house, unlocking the deadbolt, and swinging the door wide open for a thief.
You are actively partnering with the enemy to dismantle the peace of your own household.
Which is terrifying when you really think about it.
It is. And I think that explains why Pastor Roy draws such an uncompromising line in the sand regarding our baseline defense strategy.
Oh, you mean the quote about prayer?
Yes. He drops a statement that is clearly intended to shock the room. He says, there is no such thing as a non-praying believer.
That is a heavy statement.
It really is, because, let's be honest, we often treat prayer like flossing.
Like a polite habit.
Yeah, a polite habit we know we should maintain, but we skip it all the time without feeling much guilt.
Yeah.
But he elevates it to an existential requirement.
And to understand why he makes such a definitive claim, look at the mechanics of warfare.
Okay, unpack that.
A soldier who has completely cut off communication with headquarters is no longer functioning as part of the army. They are just wandering a battlefield alone.
And highly vulnerable to capture.
Exactly. If we're not praying, we have to look at what we are substituting in its place.
Oof. That's a hard mirror to look into.
It is. We look around at our local communities, our nation, the massive economic and cultural challenges in the world, and we claim we want revival.
Right.
But instead of pleading with God, the only entity actually capable of rewiring human hearts, we default to our screens.
Oh, man. Don't we ever?
We go online and type out long, bitter, complaining posts to let everyone in our echo chamber know exactly how angry we are.
We protest on our social media pages instead of hitting our knees in our living rooms. It is a completely misplaced allocation of our energy.
Pastor Roy argues that true revival, the actual manifest power of God breaking into a community, starts when individuals have so much faith that their immediate involuntary instinct in a crisis is to run to Him first.
Instead of running to the internet.
Right. Prayer is the conduit for that power. It serves as the baseline defensive strategy for your mind, your home, and your nation.
So claiming to rely on God while never actually communicating with Him is a functional contradiction.
Exactly.
But, I am struggling with this next part, though.
What's that?
Well, if we are properly suited up and we are consistently praying instead of just venting on the internet, what should we expect to happen next?
Okay, I see where you're going.
Because if we look at the Bible, it is literally packed with massive displays of power. We see parted seas, fire falling from the sky, instant physical healings.
Yeah, the big stuff.
If God is capable of that, why shouldn't we chase the big extraordinary stuff? Shouldn't we want the flashy viral moments of divine power, like getting a prophecy to know exactly who the next president will be or how the economy will shift?
I get that. And Pastor Roy addresses that tension head on. He certainly doesn't dismiss the extraordinary.
Right, he doesn't say it doesn't happen.
Not at all. He firmly states that God remains sovereign. He absolutely still does the extraordinary. And Zion CC fully believes in the active operation of spiritual gifts today.
Good.
But he pivots to Micah chapter 6, verse 8.
Which commands us to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly.
Yes. And then he asks a deeply uncomfortable question regarding our motives. He says, are we constantly looking for the extraordinary miracle because we are actually too lazy to put in the grueling effort required to do the ordinary?
Oh, wow. Too lazy. That refrains the entire pursuit.
It really does.
We want the instant fix, so we don't have to do the heavy lifting of character development.
Consider the example Pastor Roy uses from the Gospels, where Jesus calls out the religious leaders of his day.
The Pharisees.
Right. They would travel to the ends of the earth, putting in massive outward effort to secure a single convert, only to make that convert twice the child of hell because their own underlying character was so rotten.
That is such a harsh rebuke from Jesus.
And Pastor Roy gave the modern equivalent. It's the believer who wants to travel the globe doing stadium crusades, but is an absolutely terrible, unloving person inside their own home.
Wow. Yeah, the world does not need more theatrical displays from hypocrites.
Exactly. What our communities are starting for are godly employees who don't cut corners.
Yeah.
They need godly spouses who keep their vows when it gets difficult, godly friends who offer genuine support, and parents who model emotional regulation and grace.
So Pastor Roy is completely redefining our functional definition of a miracle. He calls these ordinary miracles.
Yes, ordinary miracles.
Like when someone deeply wrongs you, and every instinct in your biology and every message from modern culture is screaming at you to seek revenge or destroy their reputation.
Choosing to actively forgive them is an ordinary miracle.
It goes completely against the laws of human nature.
Having genuine, stabilizing peace in the middle of a chaotic financial or medical storm shouldn't be viewed as a rare anomaly.
Right. That should be the common, ordinary experience of a believer who is deeply rooted in God's promises.
To really drive home this point that ordinary faithfulness must precede extraordinary miracles, Pastor Roy turns to one of the wildest, most bizarre stories in the New Testament.
Oh, I know the one you mean. In Acts chapter 19.
Yep. We read about the Apostle Paul ministering in the city of Ephesus.
This is the story where literally the handkerchiefs and the aprons that touched Paul's sweaty skin were being taken away to sick people, and their diseases were leaving them.
And evil spirits were being cast out.
It is so incredibly easy to look at a biblical account like that and immediately treat faith like a mystical vending machine.
Oh, definitely.
You insert the holy sweat cloth, you press the button, and you get the miracle dispensed to you.
But if you look at the original Greek phrasing that Luke, the author of Acts, uses here, he specifically labels these miracles as extraordinary.
Why does he point that out?
Because this was not the standard operating procedure for the early church.
Right, it wasn't an everyday occurrence.
Handing out sweaty laundry was uncommon even for the apostles. But the crucial context that Pastor Roy highlights, the part we always skip over to get to the flashy magic trick, is what Paul was doing immediately prior to this event.
Setting the stage.
Before a single sweat cloth healed anyone, Paul spent 2 grueling years doing the absolute most ordinary, mundane work imaginable in the lecture hall of Tyrannus.
2 solid years of just teaching and reasoning with people every single day.
Yeah, we romanticize that, but think about what that actually entails.
I mean, that means dealing with skeptics, answering the same annoying questions repeatedly, and going over the basic foundations of the faith day in and day out.
All while facing active persecution and hostility from the local silversmiths who hated his message.
It was a massive, exhausting grind.
The extraordinary miracles involving those cloths only erupted out of an environment that had been deeply saturated with 2 years of relentless, ordinary obedience.
So the extraordinary was merely the byproduct of the ordinary.
Exactly. And this leads to Pastor Roy's major warning against modern spiritual gimmicks.
Oh, the shortcuts.
Yes, because human nature constantly seeks a shortcut to power. We see the healing cloths in Acts, and instead of committing to 2 years of daily, frustrating discipleship, we invent shortcuts.
We start buying prayed-over holy oil or magical sweat cloths sold on late-night television, hoping to purchase the breakthrough.
And Pastor Roy explicitly calls that out and tells us to completely avoid it. God is not endorsing magical objects or talismans.
Right. By using their aprons, he was simply showing how far he was willing to go to heal people and free them from bondage in that specific cultural moment.
The actual power was never residing in the fibers of the cloth.
Just like it wasn't in the mud Jesus used to heal the blind man, or the shadow of Peter, or the bronze serpent in the Old Testament.
The power is entirely rooted in a posture of faith and obedience to God. He can take your daily struggle, the literal sweat off your brow from working hard, providing for your family, and living a quietly godly life, and use that to profoundly bless and heal the people around you.
But you have to be walking in that steady obedience first. You cannot bypass the lecture hall of Tyrannus and expect the miracles of Ephesus.
You really can't.
But, that creates a massive problem for us.
How so?
Well, if the sweat cloth isn't the point, and the actual goal is daily grinding obedience, what happens when we inevitably try to cheat the system?
Because we always want to work around.
Exactly. We're always going to look for a way to get the benefits of God without giving him full control.
And Pastor Roy points to a terrifying warning from Jesus in Matthew chapter 12, verse 43, to explain the consequences of a half-hearted approach.
This is the parable of the empty house, right?
Yes, and it offers profound psychological and spiritual insight into human behavior. Jesus describes an unclean spirit leaving a person, wandering through waterless places, seeking rest, and finding none.
Oh.
It then decides to return to the person it left, only to find the house, meaning that person's soul or mind, empty, swept clean, and put in order.
And because the space is vacant, the spirit goes and brings back 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and they move in.
Which is a chilling thought.
When Pastor Roy tied this to the idea of trying to just sprinkle a little bit of Jesus onto our lives, it hit me really hard. I want to make sure we really grasp the mechanism here.
Let's break it down.
Are we talking about the danger of moral management? Like when someone tries to just be a good person and white-knuckle their way out of bad habits?
Precisely. Let's look at how this plays out in a real-world scenario. Often a person comes to faith purely because they want relief from pain.
Right, they want the fix.
They want God to remove a massive trauma, cure a chemical addiction, or fix a toxic anger issue. They want the house swept clean of the mess.
So let's say you have a problem with exploding in rage at your coworkers.
Okay, good example. You decide to apply a little moral management. The next time your boss yells at you, you bite your lip, suppress the anger, and manage not to scream back.
You swept the house clean for the day.
But nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the spiritual realm. If you only suppress the negative behavior but leave your soul entirely empty, your brain and your spirit are going to seek a replacement.
Wow.
If you aren't filling that void, the bitterness doesn't vanish. It just mutates into passive aggression, depression, or a different destructive habit that is 7 times worse than the original yelling.
So you cannot just treat Jesus like a garnish to make your life look a little prettier.
No.
If you only ask God to remove your problems but refuse to hand over the keys to the house, you remain highly vulnerable.
To prevent the enemy from returning, the house must be occupied. You must be continually fully filled with the Holy Spirit.
So in the scenario with the angry boss, filling the house means you don't just suppress your rage.
Right. You actively pray for that boss's well-being. You consciously ask the Holy Spirit to replace your natural instinct for retaliation with genuine grace and patience.
You can't have it both ways.
No. You cannot demand that God fix your external circumstances while simultaneously refusing to give him total daily control over your thoughts, your deep-seated convictions, and your private actions.
It requires an ongoing total surrender, generating the actual fruit of the Spirit, that authentic love, joy, peace, patience, and kindness. It doesn't happen by accident.
It is the direct result of choosing those ordinary miracles hour by hour, day by day.
We spend so much time looking up at the sky, waiting for the massive X-ray flash of the extraordinary to suddenly fix our relationships and our anxieties.
But the real battle, the actual war zone we talked about at the very beginning, is won in the quiet, mundane moments.
Moments of suiting up in the armor of God and just deciding to be faithful with what is right in front of us.
It is the unglamorous daily discipline of putting one foot in front of the other in righteousness.
And Pastor Roy didn't just leave this as an abstract theological concept either.
No, he gave a very clear directive.
He closed the sermon with a very practical, immediate example of what walking this out looks like for the congregation. He told the church that to put this message into practice immediately, they didn't need to book a flight overseas.
They didn't need to launch a massive campaign.
Right. They could walk right outside the doors and support the sandwich fundraiser happening to help Hoser's family.
That right there is an ordinary miracle in action.
It is utilizing community, practicing generosity, and bearing one another's burdens without needing a stadium full of flashing lights or a viral social media campaign to validate it.
And, here is a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your week, expanding on that very idea.
Lay it on us.
If you look at history, the early church managed to completely transform the entire Roman Empire without a single viral video, without massive political lobbying, and without modern stadium events.
They didn't have any of the tech we rely on.
None of it. They dismantled the most powerful empire on earth purely through the relentless, ordinary miracle of how they radically loved their neighbors, cared for the sick, and refused to compromise their integrity.
Yeah, it is amazing.
If someone looked at your daily routine, would they see a person waiting for a magical lightning bolt? Or would they see a person faithfully walking out ordinary miracles of kindness, humility, and justice? Because if the early church could change the world with just that, what could your specific neighborhood or your workplace look like a year from now if you committed to doing the exact same thing?
That is the exact challenge we all need to carry with us. Listen, we have covered a lot of deep territory today, from understanding the mechanics of the armor of God to the vital context of Paul's sweat cloths and the absolute necessity of filling the empty house of our souls.
There is a lot to process here.
There is. So if you ever need clarification or have questions about anything you heard in this deep dive, we want to formally invite you to come to small group on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m.
The team would absolutely love to talk with you in person and dig into these questions together.
Small groups are exactly where these high-level concepts get translated into actual daily survival skills.
Huh.
Also, to ensure you hear the whole message in its original context, you should head to Zion CC's YouTube page and find the video with the exact same title, Ordinary Miracles and the Call to Suit Up.
And lastly, we want to invite you to catch the latest sermon by joining in person on Sunday at either 9 or 11 a.m.
Come suit up with the community. Before we officially sign off, I need to let you know that Zion uses AI tools to help summarize information, sermons, and common questions. Note that while Zion works hard to keep everything accurate, AI can sometimes make mistakes or hallucinate. Thank you for joining us for this recap. Stop waiting for the cinematic lightning bolt and go be an ordinary miracle for someone today.